name is Nuno. So our project is called Moving Digits. It's a Creative Europe project. It's two-year duration. It's a Creative Europe cooperation, small-scale cooperation project. Welcome. Thanks. So it's a two-year cooperation. It's a small scale, so it means a minimum of 3 partners, 3 different countries. The aim of the project is to enhance dance performances with technology leading to, hopefully, to higher engagement of audiences in the performances. As a secondary aim, we also aim to provide dancers and the dance community with further tools for documentation, for reflection, archival, and to provide them also with tools to transpose the experience, which is a non-stage experience, to other contexts. We're thinking of something like VR or immersive spaces. We're following very much kind of a UCD approach, a center design approach. It's very community-driven. We're working with a community of dancers, so we had a big call in the beginning of the year. We had 92 dancers applied. Now we're working with 10. We selected 10 dancers from that call, and we'll be working with them in several workshops. So the partners are, MITI is leading the project. We have Hochschule Düsseldorf, we have Jochen in Hochschule Düsseldorf there, namely the Mirevi lab or group inside Hochschule Düsseldorf. Jochen will explain more about that. Then we have a dance group from Estonia called Sotulat Tansulava, or Independent Dance Stage. So those are the 3 main partners of the project, and we have, as associated partners, we have Tanzhaus NRW, which is also in Düsseldorf, and it's, NRW means North Rhine-Westphalia, so it's a big main region, economically strong, and also culturally strong regions in Germany. Then as associated partner, we have as well a Portuguese company, represented by William, just I'll mention it again. So we already had a first workshop in Tallinn in February with the dancers, where we basically, it was a brainstorming, idea gathering, and discussion workshop to gather needs and kind of requirements for the system we would use for performance. Once we've done that, now we're preparing all the. It was very low tech in a sense, so we didn't have much technology in that workshop. We're just collecting ideas, brainstorming. It was 2 days gathering ideas with the participants, and now we will have a second workshop here. So actually, yesterday we were looking at space and looking at opportunities. Possibly, I think one of the most probable scenarios is we're going to do it in -1. We just need some special floor for the dancers, because dancers need some kind of special floor that is comfortable for them to get hurt or injured. So if we get that floor as we wish, we could do it here in -1. We need our partners to agree with that as well. But I think hopefully we'll be seeing 10 dancers from all over Europe coming to MITI, and hopefully we can drop by and see them prepare these systems and the content that we need for the future performances that we're building. So in order to prepare for that, and because we're spread all over Europe, UK, Germany, etc., Portugal, etc., we decided to have 1 week where we would work together. So we're now we camped in -1. We're all working on systems that the dancers will use in June. When they come here, 17 to 20, we'll be here for 4 days. And we thought it would be a great opportunity also to introduce them to the MITI community through this kind of a series of talks. So firstly, we will have Stephan Jürgens. Stephan just joined MITI as part of the Moving Images project. So in March, and hopefully we'll get more acquainted with the BT community. So it's also an opportunity for you to get to know Stephan and vice versa. Next we'll have Jochen from Hochschule Düsseldorf, also talking about his work. And lastly we'll have William from the other partner company that I mentioned, which is Plux Biosignal. So it's a company based in Lisbon. Some of you know Plux from the work with your rehab lab. There's someone from Plux actually there as well at the moment. Also, it's an opportunity to introduce William, because William will be here for 1 month. Also within this logic that we're all separated, so why not spend more time together physically and not in Skype so much. So you'll be seeing William around. So if you're interested in any of the technologies or the concepts that we'll be talking about today, feel free to talk with him. Also feel free to come to -1 to see what we're up to. We have a motion capture system. We'll talk about that. William brought with a lot of toys, a lot of sensors and things like that. And we, the media team, which Raul Mazu is also part of, and thank you Raul for organizing this. We are working more on the output side of things, so imagery and sound. And Jochen and William are working on the input side of things, and we're setting up all the OSC kind of communication protocols so that these things talk to each other nicely. So thank you so much for coming, and pass the floor to Stephan.
Thank you. Okay, hello, I'm Stephan. I feel really privileged to be here. I've been taken yesterday on a small tour, and I'm really impressed by the work done here in Madeira. So please feel free, anything that we can do outside of these 20 minutes to just drop by, and we get deeper into quite a complex field. So I'll try within 20 minutes to get around here. I was a professional dancer and then got into choreography, like about 36 years old. When I got into choreography, I found quickly that the field was evolving in so many different directions. So if you ask me what are you doing in contemporary dance, I will need some 5 minutes to respond because the field is so complex. But basically, I'm in an area that you could call dance and technology, so where new media technologies meet contemporary dance forms, and where the stage is designed in a way that you almost need a new kind of training, because it's not just like putting dance on stage and embellishing it with toys and gadgets and make it more interesting for the audience. It also means for the choreographers and the dancers to start rethinking their methodology, and I'll try to talk a little bit about this. So why not go directly into a few projects that recently I've been doing as an artist, you could say. So I work as a researcher full-time, but sometimes I get the opportunity to work with choreographers, theater directors, and so on. So this was a full-dome projection for the planetarium in Porto, done with Leonor Kyle in January. Then this was a big theater piece at Teatro Nacional with João Brites, who's a theater director and 40 years around in Portugal and has developed his own method. Then I worked with João Fiadeiro on various occasions, video mapping. So that's the type of thing where I bring my choreographic knowledge to multimedia collaborations or video design collaborations with dance and theater productions. To give you a concrete idea of one of the pieces, this is from 2013, done by Fernando Nabais, myself, and Fernando Galrito. So we tried to choreograph a drone here. And I think you can see right away that the dancer has to find ways to improvise with the drone that we hacked and piloted at this moment, but later on it had semi-automatic behaviors. These are images from the cameras. As you know, there's one pointing down, one front, and you get into an area that we could call kinetic videography, because you have to, unless you just use the traditional cinematic approaches, you have to think differently how to capture the images and project them live. This is a design aspect, a lot to do with the weight that the drone can carry, so the materials play an important role here. This is sound design, interactive sound design through Max MSP, which we had a collaborator working on this. And this is after hacking the drone, we got information about the flight data, and we visualized it this way, and then took bits and snippets and reassembled them, so choreographed, if you want, the behaviors that the drone could carry out. This was an experiment with a dancer who's into the circus area as well, so she could work trapezes and so on. And the idea here is to find an effective identity of the drone bit by bit from a choreographic point of view. And as you can imagine, sometimes it's a bit difficult to explain to people what type of dance we're doing, because we're obviously interfacing with a lot of other artistic modalities. So talking about dance, what is it actually that can be computed, what is probably not yet possible to compute, is part of this talk. And then novel strategies for the visualization of choreographic thinking. I'll show you a couple of projects that Europe-wide or even globally at the moment are leading a way into understanding choreography a little bit better and making it accessible to people that usually don't interface that much with dance. So, talking about eye cameras, how can you explain to someone who doesn't know anything about dance how this was conceived, or how was this done, what goes into it? We developed a video annotation tool for this, and I think you know Diogo Cabral, who a couple of years ago on the TKB project we met in Lisbon, and he developed this interface and then gave us a tool where we could annotate, which means simply have a couple of modalities to draw on the video images in real time, or to have a text annotation, or to create a link to the flight data, in this case of the drone and so on. So this was a novel tool because you could do both in real time, the annotations, and later on when you're back from rehearsal at home to continue to edit this. Here's an example of an ink annotation, so drawing or writing on top of a video image, maybe quickly taking notes that later on you pass on to the dancers and so on. So talking about this type of choreography, this type of work, dance and technology, you probably don't find this in the normal literature, but here are 3 examples of quite well-known publications that lead the way into understanding these type of productions a little bit better. So what I wanted quickly to address is what type of dance are we actually talking about, or what type of choreography? Because usually people simply distinguish between US ballet, some may know about modern dance, and some even may distinguish German Ausdrucksdance from American modern dance and so on. And we all know there is postmodern dance, including contact improvisation. Many people have heard of this. But this theoretician, Federica Lampici, actually says it's not so important to categorize and say what type of dance this is, but how the dances are trained. So what happens to the bodies, and what type of bodies are available in theater when you work with, for example, the 10 dances that we will have here in June. We have a very eclectic and different type of training. So Another important theoretician, academic in the field says there is no one theory about dance or choreography. So there's no one set of principles, and there is no one set of practices. And for people in HCI or HRI, that may be very challenging, because usually all the type of articles I encounter is based on LABA, but trying to annotate LABA, trying to annotate this interspecies dialogue with the robotic devices with the LABA theory is simply not possible, because too many aspects are left out. So we need to rethink a couple of things, amongst which, for example, is the collaboration between the dancer and the choreographer. Like traditionally, a choreographer is sort of a director that determines all of the aspects of the production. But Joe Butterworth here, we don't need to go through this, but in these 5 comments, she has talked to 50 choreographers. How do you work when you work with bigger companies, smaller companies, new creations? And how much do you devise? How much freedom does the dancer get to come up with their own material through improvisation? How much influence then you have in the final product, and so on and so on? How do you interact socially, more as a director type of thing, as a facilitator? So this starts to be theorized in the last couple of years, but has a lot of implications, because, for example, if you wanted with an OCAP system record some of what's happening in a rehearsal, is it the dancer inventing the movement? Is it the choreographer deciding in which direction does it go? So all of these aspects have quite an impact in how you present this to an audience later on, how do you analyze the data that come out of these processes. So it doesn't hurt to know about the different ways that dancers and choreographers collaborate today, I think. And then there is another really interesting aspect, which is choreography is something really fixed, so you can repeat it every night. The performance looks exactly the same, usually. But then there is improvisation. And lately, meaning the last couple of decades, improvisation comes in. And you can imagine improvisation something like a jazz musician having a solid structure, but then being able at the moment to play something differently, to perform something according to the type of communication they feel at that night with these type of audiences. Or within the choreography, there are aspects that can be explored. So today is different from tomorrow, and in consequence, maybe 10 performances are what comprises a piece. So you cannot say this night actually is what the piece looks like, but the 10 performances together show you what the possibilities of the piece are. So I really like this simple quote: choreography is nothing but slowed down improvisation. So in improvisation, you're aware of composition and how it will look like later on. So Friederike Lampert again says there are moments where you don't know what you're doing, it's pretty chaotic, you're looking for some material that may be usable, and in other moments it's so clear, it really looks like I can put this on stage right away. For example, in this moment, this is Sylvia Weimer in her last production, and this is, believe it or not, is improvisation. So there's a moment, it looks so sculptural, so perfect, you would want to choreograph a moment like this, but it came out, it emerged of improvisational situation. The same here. Again, this looks, at least from this angle where I photographed it, it perfectly looked choreographed. So Friederike Lampert says, ideally improvisation, like in jazz music, is something between giving a solid structure and giving the freedom to explore, but it's in the middle where the interesting things happen. It's not like you got all the freedom to do anything with the system you want to, but somewhere in the middle of open and closed, in the middle of totally fixed and totally free. And you see again, here for example, the task was very simple. It was to relate to the other dancer, either picking up an arm movement, a leg movement, that was one of the things, so communicating between the 4 of them, picking up something the other one was doing, and using the negative space, which means the space around the fellow dancers. So we could develop some visually interesting moment. And it explains why these interesting moments come up in the middle of this exploration. So now I'm jumping to international projects, which you may have heard of. These are really very well-known. Motion Bank is William Forsythe, famous ballet choreographer, and the director, research director is Scott de la Hunter, and his name you will encounter in any dance and technology context. Another one which is really recent is Sarah Watley, who has been part of Holodance. It's a whole consortium of, I think, 7 or 8 European universities, and they've been working with the recent technologies into AR, into VR, developing tools for dance education, which are helping people to conceptualize dance in a more physical way, more embodied way, if you want. And I'll just leave you to our blog, because what we're trying to do is to assemble bit by bit interesting productions that maybe in the last 10, 15 years that give you an overview of what's being done at the moment in this intersection between dance and technology. Now the project I'm coming from before I came to meet, before I came to Madeira, is called Black Box, Arts and Cognition, and led by a linguist, Carla Fernandez, who tried to research, I think quite successfully, how the choreographer communicates their very first ideas to the dancers. So what we had to do is go into the choreographic studio, accompany the very beginnings of a production. And my part in it was visualization. So later on, how can you visualize the main ideas of the choreographer in innovative ways that people that have no idea about dance can understand quickly why it is that they like a particular production, for example. Here we have Rui Lopes Graça with visual artist Jean Penalva and the National Ballet Company. What we developed is a 360 video platform, not just as a gimmick, to have a virtual environment, because when we did this in 2014-15, there were almost no 360 dance videos available. But because of the incredible potential that this environment has to be, let's say, coupled with infographics, which is the language I developed at Black Box, to show graphically some of the compositional concepts in a more tangible way. For example, here you see a normal video, but the 360-degree space allows you to shift the stage in any direction, as if you were sitting in an audience to the left, to the right, further back, closer, and then get this information. This is sort of a score of a particular scene. This is section 12 of the ballet, and you see there's a long, long solo in the beginning. Then the second dancer comes in. These 4 colors indicate that there are 4 sequences or 4 blocks, which then work as a canon, which means the second dancer that comes onto the stage uses the blue part of the choreography, and the next one as well, and so on and so on and so on. So you get a visual idea of this canon structure, which is quite a classical musical form, as you know. And here, for example, you get other information, because now you're in the virtual environment of 360 on stage, which we filmed with 2 GoPro cameras to get the full space, and then developed in Adobe Premiere and After Effects. And what's different is you can imagine you turn around and you get the dancers around you as if you were either the choreographer on stage directing the dancers, or as if you wanted to understand like the cognitive load that each dancer experiences in such a complex environment. Imagine 15 dancers around you, everyone in a different part of the canon material, and you have to time yourself according to your colleagues, because there was no music. It was like a soundscape, and it's a pretty good challenge for these dancers who usually map their movement to music, if you want to call it that way. In this scene, they had the music, but a soundscape, and they had to cue off the movement of other people. Like what you see here, for example, on top is the name of the dancer, the part of the canon where they're into through the playheads. And you see another thing, these lines here indicate where the dancers had to be on stage. And originally there were just 2 lines to organize the dancers. A group of them with the back to the audience, another group of them with the front to the audience. And here you see that the dancer who just came in, Mio, diverged from where she was supposed to be. Why? Because Tiago at that moment occupied a part on the stage where he shouldn't be, right? But because of another dancer, the dancer before, maybe starting a little bit slower and so on, he had to adjust himself. And Mio does the same thing. She adjusts herself to Tiago and Diane in real time. So we visualize these simple, let's say, the simple management, the spatial management. And people sometimes when they look at complex ballet, they just see, yeah, it's beautiful. But all of these little things that are happening in the dancer's mind are quite difficult to visualize. We found this way to visualize one of the parameters that they have to manage on stage. This is another image showing the same thing basically. There is another section which we analyzed because what we found fascinating choreographically was the relationships between the dancers. So what you see here in yellow, you see in which this is a rewind section. So in section 16, they go the whole ballet back to the beginning, right? And so you see here they're back into scene 12. But one dancer, the one who's sort of kneeling on the floor, is in a sort of resting position, while the other ones form a trio. And this relationship, what the dancers are actually doing, if they use the same material or they don't, is also too complex for a normal audience to understand. Even a professional audience many times just doesn't understand. So we want to visualize it through motion tracking techniques and the infographic information. We still have 20 seconds left, so what I'm going to do is show you the most recent. This is Sylvia Reiber, 3 dancers working with virtual information. This was a musical score by Cornelius Cardew, and these elements that you see built into the architecture were visual elements of the score that the dancers developed, and the first contact was like putting on the hourglass and seeing these elements move in different ways. We've built for each dancer an architecture which has different rooms, and in these rooms you can see what they actually did in hopefully novel ways of visualizing dance movement. For example, the space that is occupied by a certain movement. You see Alain here doing an arm circle, so it becomes sort of a sculptural thing. And then with your controllers you can enter other spaces here where you see, for example, different sequences like in Muybridge, a photograph sequence of a jump and so on. So these are spaces that can be explored through this Unity built virtual environment. Here you can go around sculpture of different phases of video stills which Teresa has performed. The images on the wall you cannot tell here, but they are stereoscopic photography, so you have another physical relationship to them, and they're quite impressive when you're actually in the virtual environment. These are annotations, graphic annotations. Again, with the controllers you can grab them and follow one of the dances and understand which of the cardio elements of the score they're actually performing at the moment. Yeah, and these are the type of games you can play in this Unity environment. Thanks so much for your attention.